I'm about to invite the panelists to come up on stage. Are you guys ready? So I'll invite them one by one. I'll start with the gentleman who is coming up. This gentleman is a board-certified consultant, OBGYN, with a deep passion for women's reproductive health, owned over 2 decades of dedicated practice. What are mathematics? 2 decades is how many years? 20 years. So that's what he meant when he says, I've been running this thing for over 20 years. Good to know, good to know. He is a husband, a father, a mentor, and a friend. Please help me invite on stage Dr. Wasunna. Karibu sana.
I get to choose where to sit.
Sorry?
I get to choose where to sit.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. The next panelist who I'm bringing up on stage, she is not a guest to your screens or your faces. She's a media personality. Yeah, we'll pick up from what you are saying, okay? She's a media personality, content creator at Misunderstood, TV host at KTN Home, author of Long Post Alert, speaker and event moderator, communications expert, Nyawira Communications, certified confidence coach. Would you please help me invite on stage Nyawira? Gashogi, please. See how she's taking her time, eh? The confidence coach in her showing off, eh? Right, and finally, the last panelist this evening, she is a founder of Chepchikoni Holdings, an umbrella brand. She's also a social media content creator under the name Chepchikoni. She runs a ministry called BYOB, for friends who come together to read the Bible and pray. In 2022, she was also featured in a DSTV show called My Kenyan Plate. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me bring up on stage Hodaya Chepchirchir, better known as Chepchikoni. And we have an apology from Angie Oboka. She really needed to be here, but something came up and she wasn't able to make it. Do you guys accept her apology? Thank you. Thank you so much for doing that. You guys may have your seats. And to moderate this conversation, I'd like to invite our super host to come back on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me bring back on stage again Trish Wangari.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, Peter. I got a question. Do you guys want, now that Angie couldn't make it, do you guys want to have Kendi on here? Right? Yes. I had to say chatter. I was like, Kendi, you have to join this panel. So karibu sana, Kendi.
If you're not clapping when he's suspect.
All right. It's such an honor to have you guys on here. Are you guys excited about this conversation that we're about to have? All right. So, Kendi, you've laid such a wonderful foundation on just what success is, what failure is, and we want to just pick up and build up from what you've just mentioned. And Dr. Wasunna, it's such an honor to have you here. You're representing this other gender. All the men, can I hear ahoo? Hey, ahoo. All right, all right. So I'm fully aware that June is the Mental Health Awareness Month for men. And I know, part of the struggle that I believe a lot of men go through is tied to success and just being able to define what success is. And part of the struggle is feeling like they don't match up to it. And so the first question that I want us to begin with for all the panelists is, have you experienced a moment of failure in your life, and how did you navigate that season?
Wow. Have we failed? Of course. I'd probably say this. A success is a failure that was given to God. I'll start by that. That's philosophical. Success is failure given to God. In other words, we all didn't start out as successes. We've all come from somewhere. Today, I'm a doctor. But would you know I missed medicine by 2 marks? I'm telling you. And I thought that my life had absolutely come to an end because I grew up in the house of a doctor. My uncles are doctors, so I was surrounded by doctors. So naturally, you're like, you know what? I'm going to be a doctor. Grades were good, but somehow I missed it. I wasn't born again at that point in time. And so I remember I grew up in Mombasa. I had this wonderful cave. Forget a man cave in the house. It was a real cave by the beach where I'd ride to. And I looked at the Indian Ocean. And I had enough sense in my heart to say this. Remember I told you, success is failure given to God. I had enough sense to say this, Lord, I've missed medicine, but I've been called to this other university, Edgerton. I give you my life. I'm going. Whatever it is you want to do with me, do it. Now, it's amazing because when I thought that my dream had ended, it was actually God starting out with me. Because to cut a long story short, within a week, in fact, the same day that I got into university, I met friends who ended up being the Christian crowd that I needed. Within 1 month, I was born again, and that set me on the path to me becoming a doctor today. Talk about being set up. So to me, what looked like a failure given to God has ended up being the success that I am today.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Nyawira. You know, when we look at you, women, pressure, some pressure, you know. Tell us, what has been your journey and your story to where you are at right now and the different platforms that God has allowed you to step on and, you know, take over? Has there been, a part of failure in your journey?
First, thank you so much, Trisha. Hello, everybody. My voice may sound a bit masculine, only because I have a horrible cold. So if you hear me speaking, it's not clave singing, okay? Shout out to them. But I think failure for me, one is, I think it's every time before everything. Like, I don't think I have a season in my life where I haven't failed. I failed in the wrong relationships. Being the wrong one in the relationship.
Ooh, that's a hard one
Plot
to admit.
twist.
It's always the other person, never us.
No, it's me. It's definitely me.
Wow.
God is working on me. But I mean, so there's and I really like what Kendi said, is that many a times I've perceived success wrongly. Well, maybe I haven't failed. Like listening to her today, I was like, I think maybe I've been too hard on myself in the journey, is that God is maybe working on me and I think I've failed. So I think to where I am, I don't think there's a full stop. So I can't quite say I've failed or succeeded. I feel like the story is being written. And it's the advantage of the Bible is that we read a chapter and we finish the entire book. But I mean, I pray. I don't know if it's today or tomorrow when the Lord takes me to glory, whenever that day will be. I think that's when I'll be able to say I'm a failure, because if I don't hear him say, well done, good and faithful servant, then I did nothing. So for me, I think I'm on a journey of many failures so that I can get good success. Does that make sense?
Wow, it does. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Nyawira. Kendi, I mean, you've given us such a wonderful basis or foundation of starting this conversation about success and failure. And you have experienced failure in your own personal life. And I don't know how many have watched Kendi's CTA. Can I see by show of hands? Okay, there's quite a number of people, but not everyone has gotten to listen to your story and journey. So maybe you can, tell us where you are right now as a global leader. I don't know how you'll summarize, but what's been your story in regards to failure setting you up to the success that you get to enjoy right now?
I think the simpler way to summarize it is, remember how I said 19 years ago I walked in and then I started, God decided rewiring to help me understand what success is. And 2 years later, in 2007, actually, looking back and realizing I had wanted, of course, to get married at 25. How many of you are those? Get a child. You're there, I know. Get children by the time, like 3 children by the time I'm 30. Those ones, get 6-figure jobs. That's what was defining success for me at the time. So, but then in 2007, looking in the mirror and realizing that I was mediocre. And I didn't have excellence in me. I had no value to give to the world. I had nothing. And at that moment, and I really love what you've said, Dr. Success is failure given to God. And at that point, actually, after knowing what God can do, telling him is that if he created me to be mediocre, I don't want to live in this world. I'm okay to die because I'm mediocre. I'd already lived 27 years. So I'm like, if you want me to live another 27 or even 50 years at this mediocre pace, I'm actually not okay with that. So then, at that point, telling him, have the full of me, rework me, build excellence in me. So for me, when you say what was failure and what was success, that was the point for me, where I just said, mediocre, sitaki, and if that's your deal, that's not my deal, I'm okay to die. So I got to that point, and then he reworked it, and that's been the journey to now.
Wow. All right, Chep, you are a foodpreneur. You've run, businesses here in Nairobi. Food businesses, Chepchikoni restaurant. Tell us, in the business world, hey, that one I know we'll be here for days, but yes, tell us, have you gotten to experience failure, whether it's business or even in your personal life, that you would love to share with us what that journey has been?
Yes, but first I'd love to say that I always had the wrong idea about failure. Like I thought when you fail, like you're done. You're done. But there's beauty to failure, and I'd love to reconnect it to my childhood. When I was young, I loved playing games. Super Mario Gang, Dangerous Dave, ndio hao millennials. So when you play these games,
watu wakati wako wapi?
Kati asubuhi, Dangerous Dave jioni. So when you used to play those games, you'd find that if you're headed this direction, you'd find a lot of places where you hit a wall, then you turn, you take another, trip, then there's a place to find a brick or fire, again you turn. And for me, failure is that redirection, when God redirects your path. So when you view failure as redirection more than it's the end, you realize the power of failure. And that's when now failure becomes the stepping stones to exactly where God wants to take you. So I have failed, an interesting thing I've never maybe shared before. I failed about 6 times before I started Chepchikoni. I sold boxers, it failed. I sold deras, it failed. I sold tumba dresses, it failed. I just couldn't wake up to go to Gikomba. I tried employment, what were KPI and whatnot. I wish you the best. It was not my portion. I tried selling roadside gizzard, smoky, and I would eat stock. So I tried opening a pork butchery, and because the kingdom of darkness had consumed me, and the pork butchery was right at bar, I would now be more of a consumer than a business person, and many other things. And through that failure, through taking this turn, and it's like, no, it got me to where I was supposed to get. Now, newsflash, when you get even to the path where God wants you to be, you will still fail inside there. Sometimes we think, nimefika, I just arrived. Even when you just arrive, you will continue to fail. So failure is a continuous journey. I think God created failure to make us not be at our comfort zone. So even someone like Kendi, she's done so well for herself. But if you are to ask her, even now where she is, there failure kidogo wanapelekana hivi, and that's and that has been my journey. And recently I just shared on DJ Mo's podcast that 2023 was now a year of proper failure for me as a brand, and it was God literally just redirecting me again to, okay, sir, I gave you this Chepchikoni, but you've been playing Kati with it. Now let's go to the NBA, and so that's where it's been. So if you see people on a panel like this, please don't have low self-esteem. They have failed. Sazini hata tumefail ndio tukuje hapa leo. Yani, I've just failed at something, then I am here. So have the right mindset about failure. It's literally that redirection for me, and I thank God for my failures.
Wow, I love that because, I mean, wow, Leah, let's give it up to Chep. And I love the humor that you put in it, because when you're talking about failure, sometimes you can be a bit too serious because it's like, that's not something to joke around. But I think I love the fact that you have laid out the reality that, who knows, like failure is one of those things that will constantly happen. And I love, Nyawira, the podcast that we did together where you mentioned about being willing to fail so that you can learn from it. So perceiving failure as a way, as a learning opportunity versus, it's over and it's done and I'm not good enough. And Kendi, you mentioned something about, just the pressure that we get to face in the society. We have this expectation of success. All of us, I believe, majority of us, let me say, there's this societal imagination that, I'll join campus by 23, 22, get done with campus, then get my first job. By the time I'm 25, I'm earning, a six-figure salary, right? That's what you write in our 10-year plan, six-figure salary by 25. By 27, 28, thereabout, married, for ladies, probably start bearing children, start a family. Maybe by 30, I'll be done with this family thing. And let me tell you, life is usually, they are doing press-ups, waiting for you. Like that meme that normally says, Uye ni wachieni. This one, leave it for me, And I don't know whether you guys have gone through the societal pressure and expectations. And by the time majority of the people, I don't know that we have 30-year-olds here, but let me tell you, I remember there's a friend of mine, by the time she turned 30, it was a miserable year for her because she felt, I have failed. That job, literally, I'm still job hunting. I'm 30, I don't have a job, I'm not married, I'm not even dating. Life is miserable. I don't know that you guys have gone through that, and how did you deal with the societal pressure of what success ought to be and when you don't match up to it?
Wow, Wajua.
Speak for the men. Speak for the men, because I know there's a man here who's saying, I can't even date because it's a struggle.
Life begins at 40. They lied, eh? Men want to have retired well by 40. You get my point? It's ending. I think for a man, the thing about a man not being able to provide, and again, this world rams it down our throats, that if we're going to be successful, we've got to have stuff, lots of stuff. So here you get to 30, life is starting, you want to make your investments. By 30, 35, 40, you don't have a house yet, and then it hits you. You don't have investments, you're comparing yourself with other people. And now it begins to hit you. Am I really as successful? What about, let me complicate it. You're a man of God, and God spoke to you very clearly and talked about the blessings he'd give you, but they're taking long, kind of like Abraham's. The baby's taking long, so you're being given the house help. Fanya mambo, patim toto. The point is, God has spoken about you, and God will speak up. God will speak. If you're walking with God, he'll give you a promise. You'll get up. He will always promise you. God is a promise-giving, promise-keeping God. But the thing is, now the process of between what he said he wants you to be and where you are. And by the way, when God speaks to you about where he wants to take you, it looks completely different from where you are now. And that's the frustration. How do I get from the here to there? Many take shortcuts. They will steal, they'll kill, they'll destroy, like someone we know, to get there, you know? God promised me a husband. You know, the husband is not coming. I'm 30-something. You know what? I'll steal someone's husband. That's the frustration for a man, for us as men, that there is a promise, but it seems to be taking long because God is eternal, but me, I don't. I only have a certain number of years. Lord, you're taking long, you know? But then I remind myself that Moses began at 80. His real ministry in earnest began at 80. I have to go back to the author of the book and remind myself that, number one, listen, I'm an eternal being. I will live forever, not in this state. So God it's not just about this life. So what I'm being taught now is also going to help me in the life to come, in the kingdom to come. So it's not just about these 70, 80 years. That calms me down. But I can tell you it is true from a male perspective, the wait is not easy. But you know what? Pressure makes diamonds. In closing, I'll say this. Oftentimes, I look at some of the people who have gotten the wealth that people want so easily. Number one, it flies away. Number two, they become literally arrogant people. When he was poor, broke, the guy was in church. If it's raining, he would still come. The moment these things happened, the guy is arrogant. Kidogo weather, he wants to do bedside Baptist. And he has a car. Something happened. As she said, can God trust you? The reason why God will give you the weight is because can you stand to be blessed? God wants to make sure that you can handle it. You have the integrity because it's not your comfort primarily he's after, it's your character.
Awesome. Wow. God is after your character. Nyawira, tell us, what is your
Let
story?
me just share the grace. I mean, come on.
I need the grace of our Lord Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. You need the love of God now.
But yeah, you know, I really like that quote that pressure creates diamonds, yeah? But that's when they're there. But when I'm in the thick of it, I don't want to be a diamond. Like, I'm not just chilling, yeah, give me pressure, I'll become a diamond. Like, I don't do that in my free time. It's not the reality. And I think the thing about faith is that God doesn't really appreciate your thinking concerning his will. He doesn't care. Like, he doesn't care about the fact that you think you should be a certain place. The question becomes, what does he want from you? No, the Bible is full of so many characters that have societal pressure. One of my favorite is the homegirl Hannah. Like, I think about her all the time in my free time, and I think, I don't think I would have resorted to prayer. Yeah, we all have Penina, isn't it? Or you don't think you do? Let me tell you who she is. She looks like all your circle getting married and you're the only one who isn't. She looks like all your girlfriends are dating and you just become the place in the WhatsApp group for must be nice, isn't it? It looks like that. There's Penina in everything. Everybody's getting a job. I have none. Everybody is getting promoted. I'm not. And that's Penina. But what happens with Hannah is that her husband then tells her, Queenie, I must be worth more than children. And Hannah says, by the way, forget you, my brother. I'm going to get a child. But her response was not like ridiculously pursuing a child. And it's funny that I sit near an OBGYN. But
Welcome to the club.
It wasn't like a fertility plan she made. Because she recognized that this child is coming from nowhere else. I think the reason we get so caught up with societal pressure, and I'm not saying this because I don't have it, as I sit here, is biting me in the back. You know, like I can feel it. I can feel the awkwardness when I walk into a room and the first question is 3 years in marriage, no children? I hear it. And you don't have to say it. I can see it in your eyes. I see it. Yeah? And it's not that, and I'm not trying to sit here and say that there is a timeline. But what I'm saying is, I've come to learn, and I think I'm still learning, that this pressure we have is fully personal, fully internal. You have said you want it. I mean, everybody wants to be like, if you're like me, you want to be like, isn't it? You know, when my husband told me the first time he loves me, I was like, I'm so excited. But it's so strange is that there's a lot that I'm saying in my head. All this to tell you, it's inside you. Yeah? And I think it sounds like church jargon to say that we need to surrender, but you need to know he has a will for you. Because you can't surrender aimlessly. Have you ever seen, I surrender, God, I surrender. But to what? Yeah? And I think that's a thing. So my counsel to anybody is that waiting isn't a problem. It isn't. I actually think it's a good thing that God makes us wait. Had God blessed us with some of the things that we have now, that if we got them younger, would have been trouble. I'm troubled now. I'm troubled now. Can you imagine if God gave me some of the things I have now then? I'd have been just bad. But there's something so interesting, is that God knows that in waiting, you're going to expend some energy. Yeah, it's not a walk in the park also, because there's a lot involved in waiting. There's emotional fatigue, there's mental fatigue, there's spiritual fatigue, there's financial fatigue. You're waiting. But the thing I like about God is that it's not unfamiliar to him to tell you that even as you wait, I will renew your strength. Because he knows what waiting is. It's not easy, it is necessary. Yeah? And I'm not saying this, it's usually so easy when you're on the panel say, these are the amazing quotes by Nyawira. But this is just to tell everybody that even I'm waiting on God on certain things. I'm so far from where I want to be in life. But as I wait, I'm not telling him, this is my timeline. Because the unfortunate reality is that if that's the way I think, he may never give it to me, and I may call him unfaithful. So don't deprive God of his identity because he's taking longer. He's God. He knows why it's taking longer. When it comes, it will make sense. And I think that's the power of hindsight. Yeah.
Amen. So guys, surrender your timelines to God. Surrender your timelines to God. He's the one in charge. Kendi, tell us your journey. Societal pressure, maisha imekuwa nywe. It's just been an easy, smooth ride.
Well, no. Those who've had my CTA, they know it's not been smooth. But I'll tell you what has helped me over time. I came to learn that in this school of faith, there is no competition. As in, God takes you through that process until you get the lesson fully. So the sooner you comply, meaning the sooner I comply and ask him, okay, nimekubali, which is the surrender we are talking about. I have accepted. Tell me, what do you want? So that we clear this thing quickly, we move to the next step. So actually, the times are hard. They are painful. But what I have learned, we will go around that mountain. We will go around. It will be 40 years. I don't want to take 40 years in something that would have taken a day, maybe 2, maybe a year, maybe 3 years. So I ask him to, and he said he can help us, right? So I go back to the Bible, and that's why I keep sending us back to his word. The answers are in there. I'm like, it is for repeating until I get it. So the favor I can do myself is to quickly ask, what's the lesson? What must I do? What do I need to do? And now can we move on? And I know it may sound maybe spiritual, but truly, that's how I live it. I just, hakuna kupitishwa, he is God. You have to rewind until you get the lesson. So we get the lesson through the pain. I cry, I do everything, I pull my hair, anything we want. He sees it. If whoever I need to call and be like, this one, I don't want this cup. But we still go through it. Then at the end, he actually proves himself true.
Amen. All right, Chep.
Societal pressure. I agree with what Nyawira says. Most times it starts from inside. The outside voices just validate that which you have given yourself pressure from inside. You know? Because sometimes you talk to someone, you look like they're going a certain direction. For example, they run a skincare business, and you're like, hey, why haven't you opened a shop? If they've not had that pressure from inside, then you are not going to influence and put pressure on them. Does it make sense? Like, say, amepanga in their minds or in their structure, they know this is what I'm doing to my business. I need to get to 10 products. Then I need to do a pickup point. Then I need to open a shop. You are asking them about step 4. They're in step 2. There is no way they are going to jump and get pressure for step 4 because they understand the steps and they understand what they're doing. And they don't have that pressure from the inside. So that's what I believe. Now, something that helps me tackle pressure, 2 things: opportunity, time, preparation. Again, back to the story of Hannah. Hannah didn't have a child. Time was flying according to her. She was being laughed at. But you see, these 3 factors had to play together. Time for a prophet. Time for Samuel to be born. Opportunity. Her taking that chance. And then preparation. God had to move her from a place of comparison. She had to deal with that. Then she had to deal with idolatry, because I believe for her to utter and say, when I get this child, they will serve you. Do you know, there was probably a time she said, when I get this child, I'll never even get out of home. All I will do is adore this child. And we see at the place of preparation, she was prepared to now give up this child to serve God, is when God made it happen. So again, back to what Kendi said, why do you want success so badly? If you look at anything you have achieved, there was steps to it. Until you got to stop making it about yourself is when you realize it worked out. Let me give you an example from my story. For Chepchikoni, to be very honest, when things started working for it is when I realized I had started talking to God about it and telling God, you know, I want to change, say, the trajectory of what my family looks like. I want to help other entrepreneurs see that it's possible. I want my business to be like a marking scheme for, or say, a learning board for other entrepreneurs. Is when I could see things moving, not to perfection, but there was progress. So just that. What's your reason for success? Because even for Hannah, we see it shift to a point she confesses with her mouth. And this means it was coming from her heart, telling God, if you give me this child, they will serve you. It's not, if you give me this child now, Penina can give me peace, or people can keep quiet, or someone can get me milk and the remote even when it's just beside me, or warm for me my stew. It's, this child will serve you. So that, I want to ask you a question. That success you're badly chasing, who is it going to serve? Is it you? Then I have bad news. It won't. Is it God? Is it purpose? Then keep going for it. Because for as long as, and I know, amwezi kubali sahi, lakini if every one of you asks themselves, the more you've had selfish intentions attached to that thing you want, nika inakutoka. You are going this side, that thing is going that side. You badly want marriage. Why? To shumekia us, to prove a point to the village aunties, so that your girlfriends will not breathe. To my husband us to death, it will take forever. Why do you want this car? I want to be doing Instagram reels with a photo of that car being the, it's called cover photo, that one. I want this car so that I can feel nice also splashing water, or they may know. That's why these things take time. So stop focusing on the pressure, on why am I failing, or how are people looking at me. Move it to, God, I desire this, but make me understand how this thing will connect with what you truly want for me. So that's that.
Wow, I love that. And that is very profound because you mentioned about comparison, which leads me to the next question. Because let's be honest, we live in a social media era. You know, we're always scrolling social media, checking out. As much as, yes, we are Christians, even in ministry, let me tell you, even pastors, I'm sure they're looking at, hey, this other pastor is prospering. They only have 10 congregants, you know. We are looking at, hey, I've been doing content. Hey, Trisha just started her podcast the other day, and now I don't know how many followers she has. And me, I've been doing content for like 5 years, and here I am. I only have 5 followers, you know, or 5 subscribers. And so we live in a social media era where we are always constantly comparing our journeys with other people, viewing success from other people's lives, you know, and feeling like we don't match up just because I'm not where Nyawira is, you know. Nyawira is now a moderator, you know, and speaker, you know, and it's something that you've been wanting to attain for many years, but you're not there. How have you guys dealt with, first of all, have you found yourself in that space of comparison, you know, and how have you managed to deal and kill comparison, though I know it's a journey? And how have you stuck to your lane, in short?
Well, I guess the biggest failure of all is realizing that you can't be somebody else. Because everybody's an authentic individual. When you try, you want to be like so-and-so, keep up with the Joneses, or try to talk like them, you cannot be them. Because you are not them. So that's probably one of the most ultimate failures, is that you will try as much as possible. Tony can try to be like Timothy, but he will not be. You will never match up with Timothy. You can't, you know. Barbara can't be like Betty. You will never be. So settle this. You can only be the best you. Compare yourself with yourself. What was I like yesterday? Am I growing? That's the comparison that really matters. But when you start comparing yourself with somebody else, they're also comparing themselves with somebody else. So what's going on here? This is just a muddled up situation, you know? Wasn't Jeremiah told before you were born, before you were conceived, this is a gynecological term, before you were conceived in your mother's womb, God says, I knew you and I commissioned you a prophet to the nations. I can tell you this as a gynecologist because all of us here are over 18 and we're in the house of God. Not God, God. Everyone say God. So, when a man deposits seed righteously, let's put it that way, okay, into his wife, we're in the house of God, okay, there are millions and millions of sperm. Some of them are called wobblers. They don't go anywhere. True, we see them. Others shoot forth. Others go the wrong way. You, out of like 50, 60 million, made it and you're the one. Now, by the way, imagine a big round thing, the egg. There are many sperm that make it to where the egg is. Many of us think it's the first one. It's not quite like that, okay? If you look at an electron microscope scan of fertilization, you'll see that there are many, many, many suitors. Many sperm have reached there, and they're knocking. The egg has something that's almost like you know these sci-fi movies, a force field, electric fence. It's called electric potential. So it's like the sperm are trying to get through, but they're being electrocuted. All of them. Then there is one that comes. The moment it touches, KPLC is off. Electric fence off, it's allowed in, KPLC back on. Now, you tell me, what it was you that God had in mind. And now you're trying to compare yourself with somebody else? Say, ouch. It's a lie. So you can only be the best you. And I'll say this. I think one of the biggest challenges of every person is this. I know there's a will of God for my life. It's unique to me. But Lord, what is it? What do you want me to do? How? I have found in the 49 years that I have lived, the measly 49 years I've lived, that God never gives me the whole picture. I know you wish He just gave you the whole outline. It's kind of like you have this jigsaw puzzle and on the box you have the whole picture, then you know this one goes here like that. God doesn't do that. That's not exciting for Him. He wants you to walk by faith. And so when you take one step, He illuminates the next one. If you don't take another step, you remain there. So you have to keep moving step by step. And you know what? Sometimes you'll slip, you'll make a mistake. But just like Google Maps or that navigation thing, you'll hear it saying, turn right here. Go back here. Because in the scheme of things, God is going to get you from here to there. Whether you try and do like this and this, as long as you're in His will and you're obedient, even if you have a slip up here, a slip up there, ultimately, He will get you there because He who began a good work will be faithful to complete it. So you're living in a controlled environment. So relax. I finish by saying this. When are you going to be happy? Are you going to be happy when the things you're trusting God come? Well, supposing it takes 5 years, you'll have missed 5 years of happiness. The place to be happy is, and the time to be happy is, and the way to be happy is to, it's all about other people. Be happy today. Don't be happy then, be happy now.
All right, Dr. Wasunna, I think now we are ready to go home. Yeah, it seems like we'll finish with the song, I Am Happy. All right, Nyawira.
I don't have a song. But about comparison, absolutely. Absolutely. I used to think comparison is synonymous to aspiration. Like, I want to be like Trisha. So I'm going to compare where I am in my journey and where Trisha is in her journey, and then we see where we go.
Someone just said,
receive
hey!
it in the name of Jesus. But the thing that's so interesting that I'm learning now is that he said it so well, is that we need to compare ourselves with the older us. Like the old me and the now. Is there growth? Is there stagnation? What's happening? But then also, one of the 10 commandments that I really have been thinking about of late, because this is what I do in my free time, I just think about the 10 commandments, is that he says, do not covet, yeah? And I used to wonder, me and my neighbor don't have oxen, because he says what we shouldn't covet. But I used to think, and I think now when I hear it, I think he tells us not to covet because you really don't know what's on the other side. And I think that's the thing with comparison, is that I compare myself with you based on what I like. But the truth is, I don't want your mess. I just want your high moments. And so I think the lesson for me, to anybody here who's struggling with comparison, is that, one, you're not alone. And I think it's ingenuine to come here and say that I haven't faced it. I've faced it. What are you saying? My vision board, there was a time it just used to look like an Instagram feed, like pictures of everybody, But it wasn't to learn from them. You can't see it? Yeah. And I tap it every morning like I receive that in Jesus' name. But what would happen is that I would go to it and I'd say I want to be like this. But the danger with that was that I began to think that this became the measure of success for me, which limited God a lot. Then also what I've also come to learn also with comparison is that really why we struggle with comparison is because we don't know who we are. Yeah. You see, we live in a world where if I walk into this room, everybody can tell me who I need to be, who I need to sound like, who I need to dress like, who I need to be associated with. If I don't know who I am, then I'll become it, right? So it's like we become like little big magnets that walk around, and we go collecting different personalities and different traits and different even thinking that sometimes are a bit creepy. It's like, I don't know if you guys have a friend who their thinking is a bit weird, but you really can't tell them because you're godly. Yeah, it could be you. But what happens is that I just think that if the core issue with comparison is an absence of identity. If I know who I am, it's very hard for me to say I'm inadequate. But it's very easy for me to say I desire. So I think comparison is an identity issue. Yeah, and if you don't know who you are, it's hard.
Wow. All right. Kendi.
Wow, as they were speaking, I was thinking a lot of things. And I wondered, is it comparison or is it envy or is it both? Is it envy or jealous? Is it? Where is comparison
I
from?
feel
What's
like
the
it's a fine
underlying?
line. You can compare and move on with your life or recollect. But if you continue in that place of comparison, I feel like it eventually leads you to a place of envy or jealousy. Am I right?
So if you check the state of the heart, and I ask this not because I'm judging, I ask this because I'm reflecting on my life. So we struggled to conceive our first child. And one of my closest friends, I won't say her name so she doesn't ask me if she ever watches this. They got pregnant before us, maybe by 9 months or thereabout, which is the duration we were trying to conceive. And so, as you know, when girls get pregnant, we do the baby shower for them. So at the time we were doing a baby shower, which was maybe she was 8 months pregnant or thereabout, meaning it's been a full 8 months. And I was her close friend, and I didn't go. So why didn't I go? Is that
Tell
envy,
us.
jealous? Yes. So is that also comparison? Yeah, I'm asking. That's what I'm asking. Is comparison, not the underlying state of the heart?
I deserve that more than you.
Correct. As in, I look at that, I want it, or I identify it and I want it. So, have I compared? Yes, I did. And that, God, hey, because we work closely with God, He called me out and He's like, so what is this? Because I have not given you a child, you will not go and be happy for your friend. And so then what He has helped me, and that child who we conceived a month after that shower turned 11 last week, actually. So what has happened over the years, God has helped me again affirm me as to who I am. And to one of the questions Nyawira says, if you're comparing and He has charted out a path for you, who would I have compared with or wanted to be who has lived this life that I'm now in Dublin leading a global team? Who would that person have been? As in, who is that person? Because I have not seen them. So if I went and told God I want to be this, am I not limiting God? Yeah? And so, yes, it's been there, but I've also learned to surrender to God. And while moving to Dublin for a meta job, being relocated, your whole family catered for 5-star experience and all that, it sounds nice. And it is at that point. But do you know the year we moved, 6 months after, there was global retrenchments. So imagine you have uprooted your whole family. You have left Nairobi, which you're fine. As in, I left my Microsoft job. I was fine. I have moved to Dublin. Then there's retrenchments. And what was it? Last in, first out. Now, imagine if I had not asked God if He wanted me to go. What would I have been doing? What would that have meant? Imagine if I went without the faith and without inquiring of Him and Him telling me, I want you to go. So that's the only confidence I stayed on. And that is how, somehow, I was not retrenched. Somehow, as much as it was last in, first out, God's favor showed up and I stayed. And if anything, I got a bigger responsibility. So you see, so that when you allow Him to train you who you are, and you allow Him to chart that path for you, nothing is impossible ahead. Yeah.
Great. Amen. Amen to that. Chep?
If I have dealt with comparison, yes, I have. And I'll share maybe 2-3 things I've learned about comparison. Comparison is like being on a what are they called? Soldiers, those, I don't know. People going to war, okay? and you're in the trainee sector still, but you go and tell the leader, I want to be on the front line. Tell me you will not die first. Mshale ya kwanza hivi, it is you. That is what comparison literally looks like. And it's something God really showed me, because there was a time I was comparing myself to someone, and God literally told me, if I give you what she has or put you where she is, and you have to take up everything, the good, the bad, and what, you will die. You will perish. And that's the reality we don't see about comparison. That person you so badly want to be like, that star, that musician, that actor, that wife of an MP, you don't know the battles they have to fight. You are looking at the glory. You don't know the battles they are fighting every day. Now you'll be put in there, you're like, take me out, take me out. You're like, hey, watch Ikai. That is the reality. Please, before you compare yourself and desire someone's life, you don't know the battles they have to fight. You don't know the grace they need for that space. You are looking at the space. Do you understand the grace? You say, I want to be a pastor. Do you know how many warfare the pastor has to fight just by virtue of being a pastor? Because he delivered your stomach ache yesterday. Today the daughter has a toothache. You know? We really don't understand. And even the power of distraction. You know, I have my big sister has 3 boys. There's a time I went to visit them, and I took the ule mkubwa, I bought for him a toy, the ones you control with a what. Then ule mdogo, I just bought him those silicone toys, those snakes you can terrify people with. And this small one is, instead of enjoying, that's the thing. You refuse to find joy in where you are, your path, what you have. You're now looking at someone else, you're like, kakwane ako ka discovery kake hivi, na bwana yake hivi nitafurahia, na hiyo job yake hivi kidogo. And I told this huge nephew, give him your toy. 10 minutes at many, it was down, dismantled, doesn't know how to operate. And that is the reality of comparison. You will destroy that which you want so badly. You will destroy. And again, imagine if all of us were the same. Like, this world would be crazy. I say yes, everyone says yes. It sounds like a choir. I buy a train, everyone buys a train. There is no road to pass with that train. Because we are looking alike. And again, comparison. Imagine kukaa kama kitenge. Because I want the hair of Kendi, I have her hair. I want Nyawira's car, I have it. I want his career. I look very confusing. Nakaa kama kitenge. In fact, you can give someone nausea because of literally wanting to be like everyone. You know? So, guys, please run away from comparison. Stay content. And genuinely, one thing I have learned, contentment is like a basket. Once you are content, God just keeps adding to your basket. He adds. Hata ile huko umemwambia, you're like, God, you've decided to slap me with a defender. That's how contentment looks like. So, let's practice contentment. And even the joy of clapping for other people. Before I end, there was a lady who I saw, she was launching a book, and she was saying she was preparing for her launch tomorrow. And today she saw another lady she looks up to was also launching her book. She saw it was big on the news, everywhere. Everyone is posting hashtag. And she said the spirit of envy was coming and telling her, like, she won't even do that good. And she said, she quickly went down on her knees and started praying and like, God, what do you want me to do? The voice of the enemy is here. For every time the enemy speaks, ask God what he's saying. And so she said God told her to purchase 5 of those books and call that girl and congratulate her. And she said when she launched her book the next day, she had the biggest success more than any other books she has written. I'm telling you today, when you tackle comparison head face on, you'll be so surprised at what God will do. When your business is crumbling and you're showing up to someone who's opening their business and you're congratulating them from your heart, God will turn your story around. Take that from me. God will turn your story around. When you're going to a baby shower of someone and you have waited for 10 years and you are congratulating them and blessing them, believe you me, your blessing is on the way. And I'm telling you, comparison is the enemy of our blessing. Blessing yako inakuja hivi comparison. You know, Subaru hapo kwa traffic. Kanaingia hivi kwa blessing kako. Wachana na comparison. Wachana nayo. That's all I have to say.
Wow. All right. Thank you, Chep, and I love your humor. Well, honestly, I'm not even quarterly done with the questions, but I know we need to wrap this up, and I'll be giving an opportunity to 1 or 2 questions. So if you have a question, prepare for that. But I wouldn't do justice to this conversation if I don't ask the question of what discipline have you incorporated in your life to ensure that you are walking through a path of success? Because Kendi, you mentioned about there's a point in your life when you said, hey, mediocre life, done and dusted with it. So what are some of the disciplines or systems that you've put in place to ensure that you are on a path of growth and a path that's leading you towards success?